So this circulation session, I want to get feedback from all of you who have used it, questions that you have or things that you want to look into more detail. I don't get to use this on a regular basis, so there may be things that I haven't explored yet. If we encounter any problems, I'll check them out and get back to the group. So the main screen has your checkout and check-in. Those functions are also available under the circulation menu. Also search for patron by name. So I wanted to click on this, and it brings up the same screen that comes up when you click on the search menu and search for patrons. When it's saying search by name, you can actually click on this arrow and just get down to just name. Most of the time I want to have more fields to search by, so I usually have it expanded, and it remembers that I've got it expanded, so that's what it brings up. Okay, so I just wanted to bring up a random patron because I don't have anything checked out, unless you guys want to volunteer a patron for me. Is there a Fred Smith in the system? Okay, there's a couple. Okay. So I don't know whether either of these have something checked out. Items out, nope. I'm going to click on the back arrow to get back to my original screen. Oh, that's the one I had. Silly me. Okay. All right. I'm not doing too well here. So I brought my record up. It does not have anything checked out. But Kathleen had a question earlier about how she would print out a receipt for all the items a particular person has out. And that would be, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to see it, but it's under items out. Okay. And because I don't have anything here, you can't see the actions. So I'm going to have to find somebody who's got something checked out or check out some things to myself. Well, that was nice. Thanks, Kathleen. Okay, so search for patrons. Okay, what did I do? Ah, I missed a letter in your last name. There we go. Okay, Kathleen has a couple items out. All right, so once I select those items by clicking on the column under Actions, Print Item Receipt. See what that does. Okay. So right now it's showing, can you guys see that up on the screen? I believe that this particular workstation, I don't have the new templates, but so these are the default templates. but it does show all of the items that you have checked out. So at this point, I'm going to click on cancel. So does that answer your question, Kathleen? Well, we could always go back to that. I'm not seeing anything in the chat message. So let's go back to, okay. When finishing checkouts for a patron and selecting to print a receipt, I only get the receipt with the day's items, not the whole list. Yeah, you need to go to the Items Out tab, which will show all of their items, including the ones that they've checked out just at that time as well. Because I think what you were in the checkout tab, and the item receipt in the checkout tab only includes those things that were just checked out. But if you go to Items Out, it'll reflect all of them. Well, I thought in lieu of other questions, yeah, let me know if it doesn't work for you, Kathleen, and we'll see whether something else is going on. But that's what I've found in my experience. So unless we have other questions, I thought we would just step through some menu items and see if we generate some questions that way. So I already showed you the patron search option. Let's go back there again and see if anything stands out. One of the things with searching by patrons in the past, I think we've limited it to 50 patrons showing on this front screen. With rows being 100, I was going to try and do a generic search and see if I was able to generate more than that. So we're just searching the whole database for patrons with the last name Smith. And you can see that it is now more than 50. I have 100. So if you wanted to go crazy and display 100 patrons at a time, you could. Okay, by default, it appears to be in last name, first name order. At some point, my guess is that we're going to be able to, and maybe now, some of these screens allow you to sort, but it doesn't look like, let me see if I can, the underlined ones appear to be able to do a sort. So I was able to sort this list by when they were created. So 1970 was when that particular account was created, which seems really early. But not all of these are sort options at this point, but I expect that to improve. And so with this search screen, you can type in anything. if you want to search for somebody by email, you can now, as well as things in the address, the date of birth, year, month, and day, which is, I think, more rare, but it is there as a possibility. Okay. All right. Going through the circulation menu, check out. We'll bring that one up. Very similar to the existing desktop staff client. Trying to think of anything else that would be different here, and I can't. So you just enter your barcode. Let me bring up, I'll enter mine. Okay, brings up the patron, which we saw before. So one of the things that I've showed some of the group is the ability to click on this down arrow over here on the far right-hand side and manipulate your columns. You can choose which columns you see on this checkout screen and which ones you don't. And then if you do make any changes, go ahead and click on Save Columns, and those settings will be retained. Right now, those settings are retained as a part of the browser. Eventually, those will be maintained on the browser. So, on the server, and so not vulnerable to when you clear cache on your browser. Something else on this checkout screen, you can specify a specific due date. You can either use the calendar or you can use the enter the date physically. Here again, you can expand the number of rows that you see, but most likely you're not going to be seeing, you're not going to be checking out more than 25 items to a patron at a time. Occasionally that happens, but not often. Quick receipt boxes, you're seeing it's not going to show anything right here, giving me an option to either email the receipt or print it out because I haven't checked anything out. But once you do have some items in this checkout tab, it will give you the option to do a quick receipt. Okay, other thing, go ahead.
You might note the strict barcode.
Okay.
For those who have issues with a barcode reader, checking that would make it so that you would know if it was an incorrect barcode.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Dia. The strict barcode, if you're using CodaBar barcodes, this really does help the miss scans because occasionally we see those. And in the new web client, oftentimes that will go to a pre-cat checkout, which is not what you want. If you have a cataloged item and it has a legitimate barcode. The one thing you have to watch with this strict barcode is if you're checking out ILL items that don't have that CodaBar barcode, they have a shorter barcode or a barcode that is a combination of letters and numbers, you won't be able to use this strict barcode. So I think having it checked for most of your checkouts is good. I just wanted you to have an awareness that if you're doing an ILL, it might not, it won't let you check out that, or the scan in of those non-conforming barcodes won't work correctly. Okay, it will remember this setting the next time you come in. This is one of those toggle options, so it should keep the strict barcode on there from checkout to checkout. You won't have to do it for every patron. Another thing with the columns that you can do is you can actually drag things over to another spot so that it makes more sense to your workflow. Maybe you don't want to see the alert message first here. Maybe you want to see the barcode. You can drag things around to your heart's content and then just come over here and save columns. Okay, check out. We already went to the items out tab. There again, you can manipulate these columns as well. If you wanted the due date to be first, you could save that as an option. Okay, this other special circulations. I don't often see things here, and I'm trying to remember where it has been used. The non-catalog circulations are those things like paperback books that you check out. So under this first checkout, under where you see barcode, there's an option to check out paperback book. And when I click on submit, it will ask me how many paperback books I'm checking out. I can say 2. Okay. And if I go to items out, it shows 0 under items out, but under non-catalog circulations, you see I have 2. When the due date comes around, oh, thanks, Mary. You've seen the lost items in the other? Okay. I thought that there was something that showed up in there. I just didn't have any examples in my own record. So for these paperback books, when 1021 comes around, actually 1022, these actually will just disappear from my record as if they didn't exist. It counts them as circulations, but if they don't come back to the library, it's not holding me accountable. So it's kind of like an honor system, but it allows you to be able to track those things that maybe you don't want to catalog. They're just on your paperback rack. And you trust that the patron's going to come back, or you're not stressed about it because you'll get other donations for that rack, that kind of thing. This non-catalog circulations can also be used for things like magazines, or some folks are using them for computer checkouts, just so the Sage system can track it. And if you wanted other options to appear under your login or your library, just let me know and I can add them. So that's just an additional feature that you can utilize. Holds allows you to see your holds, your current holds. You can place a hold from this record. So I could do a search. Let's see, search by author. Okay, and at this point I can place a hold. Okay, it knows which patron to place the hold for because you're in this patron's record, so it's making that assumption. Asks about, it has these email and phone notifications set by default. I could also do text messaging and put in my mobile number here. Okay, it says no spaces and no dashes. So I need to look at the explanation here. So I'll remove the dashes. And carrier, Verizon. Okay, click on Submit. Okay, so it looks like we have a display issue here where it displays this big green bar. I have to look into that. But it does say hold was successfully placed. And I can either place another hold for this title, which I don't know why I'd want to do that, unless I was placing a bunch of holds for a book club, or I could click on Continue. Okay, that just brings me back to where I can place another hold. And I'm going to have to cancel all these holds. Okay. All right. You notice that this text message, mobile number, and carrier is not set, even though I set it for the last one. And that's because it is just setting it for this particular hold. If I want to be notified by text every time I have a hold, then I need to go in and either change my record through the public OPAC by logging into the public OPAC, or have the library change it for me in my patron record. And I can show you where that's at by accessing my patron record too. So at this point, I'm going to click on Submit. I'm going to click on the Holds tab. And you see that I have 2 holds. And they're waiting for copy and waiting for capture. Before anybody goes crazy and fills those holds, I'm going to go ahead and cancel them. Cancel hold. So under the cancel reason, I have a couple different, you know, I can say patron in person, patron via phone. There's a bunch of different reasons. I'm just going to use the staff forced one. I could put a note in here, but since this was just a test, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to click on cancel hold, and those holds are gone. So the bills area is pretty self-explanatory. It's similar to the existing desktop client. Trying to think of some things that might be different. Here again, you can change the order of the columns by clicking on this arrow. If I specify check, then this area is no longer grayed out and I can type in a check number. Cash. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, messages. So these are, you can add messages to a patron's record. I don't have any applied to mine, but if I did, you'd be able to see them, as well as any archived messages here. Edit, we'll get into my record. And that area that I talked to down here, this is the default notifications for hold notices. Right now I have phone and email set. If I wanted to do SMS for text messaging, I could put that information in here. And the carrier. Okay. Click on Save. All right. Under Other, you can enter notes for the patron message, statistical categories. Your library may have some of these, but you'd be able to see the statistical category set for a particular patron. Surveys we haven't really implemented. So group member details, I might as well go over this. There's nobody in my group, but if I did have them, right now what you have to do is refresh the screen to see group member details. This is something that has been fixed in a later release. I think it might be 3.1.13 or 14, and we're on 11. So it's not much farther away. Okay. Booking is something that a couple libraries use, but not very many. But this has to do with booking resources ahead of time. Okay, and completely purge account. This would be where you would come to delete somebody's account. Okay, very quiet out there. All right, let's look at the circulation menu again. Check in. That's pretty basic as well. You can change the column headings for here. You can sort by some of these columns. If it has an underline, you can sort by that. This trim list, when you first get into your account, it will have that checked to trim list to 20 rows. I usually uncheck it because if I'm checking in more than 20 items at a time, I might want to see all those or do something with those items. And so I typically leave this unchecked. Here again, if you want to select the strict barcode for check-in, you can as well. All right, check-in modifiers. Most of these you will not need, but I just wanted to show them. I believe that these are the same ones that are on the desktop client, but I haven't compared them completely because they are so seldom used. Some folks like the auto print hold and transit slips so they don't have to worry about getting that question. The retarget local holds, I like to use this sometimes to speed up something that I've just checked in to trigger the hold being filled faster. This is especially helpful when you're checking things in from being in process, or maybe they were on the repair shelf or whatever other status that wasn't available, so they couldn't be targeted for holds. So that might be something that would allow something to be targeted faster. Okay. The effective date, here again, if you want to backdate, you can use the calendar option to say, I want things to be backdated to the 27th. And it does show that across the top here that it's backdated check-in to 9/27. So there again, very similar to the way the desktop staff client works. And I can switch it back to today, and that pink line goes away. Now, if I'd had some items checked in, there would be some actions under here where things like you could mark everything damaged, or trying to remember all the actions, but there's several things that you can do to whatever items you have selected here in the check-in. Okay, capture holds, very similar to check-in when you're trying to capture. The one difference is that it has auto print hold and transit slips selected, because I've got that specified on this particular page. Okay, let's go to the pull list for hold requests. Okay, right now this is the pull list for Union because I'm logged in as a Union workstation. It is automatically sorted by shelving location and then call number. So I think it makes it useful for going out to the shelf in different sections and finding what you need. And of course I can print this list and it will send it to the printer. Detail view. I haven't selected that before. It didn't appear to do anything different, so I'll have to see what that's all about.
You might try checking one of the
very good.
items.
Because oftentimes these options will only work if you select something. And so let's check this one. Detail view. Okay. So it basically brings up the item status detail view and shows you what's going on about this particular item. I don't know, it shows you the request date, what type of hold, email notify true, just some of the settings that are tied up with this particular hold. And then I can just go back to the list view. So thanks, Dia. That's what it was. If I had selected multiple, it looks like it just brings up the last one or the first one. It brought up the first one. So it can only bring up the detail view of one at a time, at least currently. If I select this particular one, go under Actions, then you can do things like edit the pickup library, notification settings, change the queue position. Most of these things you aren't going to be needing to do though. This is mainly just getting your pull list so you can go to the shelf and pull them and capture them. Okay. We were just at pull list for holder requests, renew items. There again, it's wanting to know what barcodes we're wanting to renew. Most of the time you're going to be doing this from the patrons account, unless somebody's at the desk and has them in a stack in front of you, which is a little bit more rare. So we are past our half hour. So are there any other questions before we go? I'm going to have a session tomorrow. That one will also be recorded. So I might go through some of these other functions in the circulation menu at that time, unless you guys have specific questions.